when I did my master's, long time ago, we still used paper, and we made assignments quite similar to this, and they looked like shit compared to what you guys are doing. The reason they looked like shit is not because we were stupid, but because we didn't have the best tools available, right? So as designers, you should have the best tools available. This is a really good tool, and you should be really good at using that tool. I'm not saying that's going to make you a great designer, but it sure will help. Okay? So I'm giving you a really nice tool here, and I hope that you will play with it. Yeah. So essentially, when we do stuff in CAD, what you guys are used to is what's called parametric modeling. Yeah, I'm just going to sit here. I hope it's legible for everyone. So essentially, what we do is we do sketch and dimension, right? And then we do some extrude or revolve or some sort of operation, right? And that is super precise, and you can do like tens of millimeters, and you can get stuff that's really precise and complex. And it's good for working with assemblies and stuff that involves a lot of parts and details. What is not so good for is ergonomics and giving shape to stuff and trying to explore sort of opportunities, because you need to add fillets, you need to do a lot of stuff. So that's why we have Freeform. Freeform is sort of like digital clay, and it's good for organic shapes, say handles or anything that is a big thing that you want to give an overall shape for. I think this is used for making cars as well, quite sure, at least on the concept stage. So it's good for concepts. You could do freeform models as basis for the final thing, but the main difference here is that there's no history when you do freeform modeling. Of course, you can open a previous revision, but you cannot undo or tweak some operation that was previous. Okay? So it's a direct modeling approach, kind of like Rhino. If any of you are familiar with that. Yeah. Yes. So when we make a free-form model, it might look a bit complex, but what's going on is really not that complex. Essentially, I just made 3 different models here to sort of illustrate what's going on. So you make something that's called a control frame. So that's just a box. And the sides of that box will pull on whatever thing is inside. And that thing that's inside is essentially your surface. So when you manipulate this box, you also manipulate the surface that sort of is pulled by the boundaries of that box. And that means a couple of things. That means if you want more precise geometry, like tighter corners and things like that, you need more edges. Then you will get more points that pull. But if you have fewer edges, it's easier to work with, because if you have a freeform model that consists of like hundreds of elements, it's going to be really difficult to do modification and make that look good. It's going to take much more time. So I think the takeaway here is that you want to use as few elements as possible and then add stuff when you need more detail. Yeah. So this is the workflow I used when I made my water gun spray handle thingy. So the first thing I did actually cheat a bit. I took a picture of the garden spray adapter you see up there, and then just traced it on my Remarkable. And I imported that into Fusion, and then I sketched some lines on top of it, and then I freeform modeled from that. That's essentially what I did. When you do this kind of things, your product, of course, will be driven by, well, some important characteristics. Let's say you make a hose adapter like this. Of course, your outer dimensions are driven by the size of the handle. It cannot be like infinitely large. Very often, if you make tools or anything else with electronics or something inside, of course, you need to fit that inside, so it cannot be infinitely small either. So it's a good idea to have those kind of things that drive your design in your model before you start modeling, if that makes sense. Let's say I make a drill. That drill needs to have room for a motor and a gearbox and a battery. So maybe I should start out by just placing those things there and then do my freeform model around it, because then I get some idea of how big this thing needs to be. Okay? Yeah. So essentially, start with a sketch and then approximate the shape you want with freeform, and just keep adding detail to that freeform. That's what we're doing. Yeah. Once you got your overall shape up and running, edit form is your friend. There's a lot of stuff that happens in the edit form command. It looks perhaps a bit confusing with this thing at the side here, but essentially edit form gives you the opportunity to modify, well, any aspect or part of your form. There's also a nice little trick, and that is if you press Control and then you move a surface at the same time, that will give you a new surface or a new set of surfaces. So let's say I got a flat surface and I want to make a tower or something. Then I can simply push Control and then pull on it, and then I will get more stuff coming out. Disregard the thing at the bottom. That's we'll get back to that later. Yeah. So remember, we have this control box, right? And then we have our final surface that's sort of inside of that box, being pulled on by that box. And you can change your views. So Control +1 gives you the box, +2 gives you a control frame display, and then Control +3 gives you the final thing. So what you do when you freeform model is that you jump back and forth between these views because you want to see what's happening with the control box as you modify your surface. So it's very good to know those commands. The reason I put Control 6 on there is that Control 4 is smooth display without visible edges. So sometimes you will see that your red edges will just disappear because you hit the wrong button, and then use Control 6 to get back to your default view. Control 6 is the default view in Fusion, and so yeah, it's a good thing to know. Yeah. Am I going the right pace? Too fast, too slow? Is it okay? Yeah. Okay, so you might know from parametric modeling, like the traditional modeling in CAD, that you can either make solids, like you can make a cube, or you can make surfaces, right? And the same thing applies for freeform as well. You can make solids and you can make surfaces. If you start out with a solid and you just delete one of the sides, let's say you make a dice, you just take off one of the faces, it just turns into a surface model instantly. And likewise, if you have a surface model and you close it off, it turns into a solid model. Sometimes you will get trouble trying to sort of close off your model, and then it's a good idea to turn on box view and look at the edges and see if you can find small gaps anywhere. Yeah. But we don't really do all of our modeling in freeform. We do some of our modeling in freeform. We do the overall shape, and then as we get closer to something that's detailed to the final thing, then it's okay to go back into your parametric view and add fillets and add detail and do that kind of thing. I will also show you that in the example. So don't try and do absolutely every tiny little detail in freeform. It's not going to work. It's going to be really hard to get patterns and emboss text and stuff like that. You're not going to be able to do that in freeform. You need to be in the parametric environment to do that. Yeah. And then there's surface modeling. You can do different things with these two things. I'm usually very fond of surface modeling when I do CAD in general. That's perhaps because I do a lot of containers and things that are like surface-like in shape. But there are also two ways of making a freeform model, two ways of approximating the shape. And they're quite different. The solid modeling is like modeling clay. The surface modeling is like extruding a surface and closing it off. It sounds complicated, but it's not that complicated. I will show you examples of it. I don't think I will take you through this workflow because it's a bit too abstract now I look at it. But just keep in mind two ways of making freeform models, solids and surfaces. Okay? Yeah, and then there's a bunch of modification tools, right? So we start out making some shape that's about the right size, and then we just modify that shape till we got the right detail level. That's the workflow. Sometimes your freeform model will not turn into a solid model. And then you have this command called repair body. And what repair body does, it identifies problem areas. Like here in my water gun, it found something that's called a T-point, which is where you got three lines meeting like a T. That might cause troubles, but not necessarily. Sometimes you will have gaps or you will have inconsistencies that don't really work, and it will be highlighted in your repair body. Okay? If your body doesn't work, delete faces, try and clean up the geometry and try and remodel the face on that local place. Okay? And then if you go to Autodesk, there are a bunch of tutorials on Freeform. So I encourage you to take those as well. A small disclaimer for me, I'm absolutely no expert in Freeform. I've started using this quite recently. So you will probably be better than me in this if you just put a few hours into it, because I haven't really had the chance to use it as a tool yet. I'm learning, like you guys. But hopefully I know enough to get this going. Okay. That was a fast introduction. So now let's get on with the assignment. So what we want to do, right? We want to make this spray handle thing. And I want you guys to use Freeform to make the shape. But I also want to help you a bit. So I made this, this model, which you are not allowed to modify, but you can copy it to your own folder. So let's start by doing that first, okay? So now since I'm in my old folder, I'm just going to copy it to, let's see, that's me, and then I'm going to copy it. There we go. And now I can see if you're in doubt on which one is yours, you can see this is version 3. This is the one I've been tinkering with. This is my new copy. That's version 1. So I'm just going to rename that. And then I'm going to call it example. Perfect. Yes. OK, perfect. Yeah. So when you open this, let's just do that. There we go. So when you open this, you will get a box. That box has the outlines that are the maximum dimensions of your spray handle. It says in the assignment. So that means your model should be inside of that box. I've also helped you a bit. Oh, someone's been playing with this. I included, this used to be half a hose adapter, now it's a full one. Someone probably modified it in place, but I can fix that back. There we go. Yeah, I see you, Seppa. Don't worry. Don't worry. I'll fix it. So what I'll do now is I'm just going to save this as latest version. Save as latest. It's all right. Yes. OK. So now the latest revision of the hose adapter is this one, which is a half one, which is what I want. I can show you how to fix with this later on. But the point is, when you have symmetrical stuff, it's very efficient to just do like half of your model and then mirror it as your very last operation. That's going to save you a lot of trouble. OK, so now I go back to this model, and it's going to give me a little exclamation sign saying that I don't have the latest version. That's what happened when I opened it. And then I can just do this, get the latest version, and now we're back to half a model. Perfect. Yes. OK, so that's step 1. This will probably also be an introduction to Fusion for a lot of you, since you haven't, I know a lot of you come from SolidWorks. So yeah, this is Fusion. It's quite similar to SolidWorks, but it's a bit different as well. In Fusion, we typically don't have multiple parts in assembly. We just have like one file, and that holds absolutely everything. And parts are called components. That's the difference, essentially. So you can have multiple components. You can do sort of the same thing with multiple parts in SolidWorks. But yeah, so whenever I make something, I'm going to call it a component. So here I started out with a new component called spray handle. I'm just going to delete that. Let's see. Delete, because I'm going to do this over. No, we're not going to remove. We're going to do. Delete. Perfect. OK, so this is what your file should look like when you get it, maybe with that spray handle on it. So what we have here is we have something I called just the design envelope, and that is essentially just my box. 60 by 200 by 150. That's the box, right? And since this is a symmetrical thing, I've placed that very nicely at the center of the symmetry plane. That's important. It's super important to place stuff on the symmetry plane when you do symmetrical stuff. And then I've included a different component, which is the host adapter, and that's down here, right? This is made in a different file, which is why you sort of get this little link thing on it. Okay, so the first thing I do is I want to make a component that's for my spray handle, and that component should be on the top level. So I activate the top level by this little radio button, and then I right click and I do new component, and then I'm just going to call that spray handle. And also feel free to give names to your water guns. Yeah, something that sounds a bit cool. So this is the procrastinator. Procrastinator. That, if you don't know what it means, it sounds a bit cool. Procrastinator. Yes. Okay. So now I got my new component, and I've activated that component. That's super important. Like the one thing I do far too often in Fusion is that I'm working on the wrong level. If you hit Shift-N, that's a very nice little key, Shift-N, it's going to highlight your components with different colors. So as you get more parts, you will see there are different colors on it. That's a very good way of verifying that you're on the right component. And also your timeline will reflect that. Yeah. So as I said, the first thing we would like to do is to import a sketch of our procrastinator, right? Something to sketch from, right? So I'm just gonna, I think maybe I'll just draw it right here. Do we have time for that? Yes, we do. Let's see. Let's see. I'm just gonna do a screenshot. I'm just gonna do this on the fly. It's gonna look very bad, but just to show you sort of what I'm doing. Yeah. You can do this, like you can take any picture online or anything and just use as a base. But I'm just gonna draw something, right? Erase it. So let's say I'm gonna draw my water gun, and it's gonna look something like that. Looks pretty mean. Maybe I should make it look a bit more kind. I don't know how to do that. Maybe we can make it round or something like. Is that okay? Maybe I should make it more round. Like. Please keep in mind, I'm not a designer. I'm the freaking engineer, giving you guys trouble. Okay. I'm not saying it's pretty, but it doesn't look dangerous at least. Yeah. Okay, that's a start. And maybe I want some text on it. Maybe it should say like procrastinator. And then I told you guys that I wanted some patterns as well. So maybe we should have some like lines or something going at the back. Maybe some dots on the handle. Okay. It's a thing, right? So now I'm going to make something that I can read in Fusion out of this with a bit of luck. So wish me luck. Let's see how this works. I go out on that. Okay. Then I got this, and then I can export that. Let's see. That's going to be a PNG. I'm going to put that on my desktop. See how that works. Come on. Oh, there we go. Perfect. Okay, so that's step one. Now I need to get that into Fusion. Can't believe that it worked. First attempt. Never happens. Yeah. So what I do now is I do insert canvas, this one. And then I can go here and find my file. And then I need to select a face, and that's going to be this face. I'm just going to hide all of this stuff. No way. That's, yeah, it's that easy. It's never this easy. Yeah. But yeah, so what I do now is scaling is always a bit tough. So I'm going to scale this thing so it sort of fits inside of that box. And then I know or assume that that box sort of gives me a meaningful size. So yeah, I can do this more accurate, but yeah, it's a start. Perfect. Okay, so that's step one. This is a good time to save. All right, so the next thing now, it's time to start the freeform modeling. And now I'm super nervous because I'm really bad at this, so please bear with me. But let's see if we can make it work. So far, let's just have a look at what we have so far, right? We have our canvas, which is up here, and there's a sketch in that canvas, right? And then I've got a bunch of components here. I got my design envelope, which is that box. I can hide that now because I got my sketch sort of highlighting how big it is. I got my hose adapter. This is in the wrong location, but that's okay because I'm going to move that later on, okay? And then I got my procrastinator water gun, okay? So we just saved, so this is a good time to start some freeform modeling. So I'm going to do this, create form, and that's going to give me my freeform environment, right? And here I got a bunch of options, right? I can make a cylinder, like I'm just going to show you some examples. I can make just like an open cylinder like this. I can make a box like that. That's probably the one you will use most often. Let's see. Here's a box, right? And I can make other things. Remember, I was obsessed about symmetry. So let's try and make this based on a box and try and form that clay. But when we do that, it's super important to get your symmetry right, because if you don't get it right in the beginning, you might as well start over. It's going to be a lot of work to get your symmetry right if you haven't started out right with symmetry. So let's start with the box. And then I'm going to start saying this. I'm going to say symmetric. And then I'm going to make, I'm just going to make the top here like a squarish thing. I'm going to start sketching it here. And then I'm just going to do that. And this. Oh, that looks pretty good. Look. Ah, perfect. Yeah. Also, I'm going to say that now it makes my box symmetric, but it's also, I've got this little box down here saying symmetry, and that's useful. When I activate symmetry here, that means if I do something, if I modify something on that side, the same modification shows up on that side. So that's useful. So I'm going to say symmetry and then mirror, and then it should gives me 3 directions of symmetry, right? X, Y, Z. So I'm going to do my height symmetry. That's what they call it. I get a little green line. You can see here. Very hard to see up here, the little green line. But height symmetry is what you want. That means that when you modify something, the other side will follow. Okay? So I'm going to tick off that. And then I just need to make this about the right size. And let me just activate that again. You can see this is too wide. It's not going to be that wide. So maybe we should start out here, right? Now I can also choose how many segments. Right now this is almost bare minimum. Like minimum is 1 segment each. That's not very easy to work with. So I can just increase that a bit. You can see also that the more segments, the more squarish this thing becomes, right? More points, and it becomes a square ultimately, right? But this is really hard to work with, so we're not going to do that. We're just going to take it down like that. And then maybe we want, I think maybe that's even too much. That's probably pretty good. Okay. Yeah, let's start here. That's the start, okay? And then I do okay. So now I got a bit of clay, and I got my sketch and my control volume, which I don't really care so much about. So let's just hide that again. Yeah. So now I need to sort of approximate this outline with that bit of clay. And this is when we will start using the control key. And also we will use the edit form. So I've done a little trick. There's a PDF I will share with you later on called CAD Ninja. It includes like 20 or 50 small little tricks to be more efficient in CAD. One of them is to assign that mouse button to the letter S, because that's a menu you will use all the time, your shortcut menu. So yeah, so when you see I do this, that's just me hitting S, and then I will select this edit form. That's the one I use the most. You can add stuff to this menu if I do like edit. You can have edit form, and then I can add stuff like edit by curve. It shows up there. Super handy, saves you a lot of like moving back and forth. But for the sake of, well, communication, I can do this. Modify, edit form, and then I can select stuff and start moving stuff. Now, if I double click, it's going to give me all of the connected faces. If I double click a line, it's going to give me that line. Isn't that nice? Super nice, yeah. The first thing I need to do, I need to add a handle here, right? So I will start by selecting these 4 guys. Maybe just 2 of them, because the handle should be a bit narrower. And then I will hit Control, and then I will just start pulling like this. Oh, come on, you can do it.
Is it Alt?
Maybe it's Alt, sorry. Yes, that's how bad I am, really. Thanks. Yes, Alt it is. So now I just pull the arrow. I might as well just pull it by the plane, right? So I can do, if I select that plane. And Alt, thank you. I will get, you can see I get 1 segment for each time I do that, right? Perfect, so now we got a handle. This is quite fun, isn't it? It's a very different way of modeling, right? And that's how we sort of do the overall form. Just pull on stuff. Yeah. But I'm not going to spend the rest of the day pulling on stuff. Yeah. I'm not sure if this ended up exactly what it, but you get my point, right? You got clay, you can do a lot of cool stuff with it, and you will be better than me at doing this in a couple of weeks' time. Okay? Yeah. Okay. So that's just, I'm not saying it looks like the real thing, but it's not horribly bad. It's something, right? And also I know that my hose adapter is a bit wider now than this. My handle is way too thin, so I need to work on that. So I'm just going to pull that up a bit. Yeah. And you can see how the symmetry sort of follows when I do one. The rest just follows on the other side, which is nice. Okay. Yeah, it's still a bit narrow. I think, so what I need to do, I need to tighten up. You see down here, it needs to be more flat than it is right now because of that interface. So if I want to make a corner tighter, I can do a couple of things. Okay. I can use a function called crease. So if I do crease, let's see, here. So essentially that will just make a sharp corner where you use the crease. So now I got, if I do it down here, maybe that's a good start. Actually, that didn't look too bad. So now I used crease, and that just like broke off tangency in that area, which could make sense when I have a hose connector. Okay. Let's say up here I want this transition a bit tighter, but I don't want like a sharp thing. I want something that's in between. So there are a couple of things I can do. One is I can select that line, double click to select the entire thing, and then I can use what's it called? Bevel. Bevel, yes. That's going to give me an additional edge. And the cool thing about an additional edge is that it tightens up geometry in that area. So now I just remove the middle one and I replace it by 2 other edges. If I put those close together like this, I get something like that. And that's a lot tighter. Yeah. Really, I'm lucky here. I'm on really thin ice. So yeah. But yeah, so that's bevel, okay? So crease and bevel, 2 different things, okay? If I get in like typically you would like to have the spacing between these elements to be quite similar to one another. So I'm just going to modify this so I sort of mess up the spacing in the same process. So I'm just going to do this, edit form, and then select these guys and pull them a bit forward. Like that, perhaps, yeah. So now this is perhaps a bit back. Maybe that's like a theoretical problem, but let's just see how that function works. So if I want this now further to the front to sort of define more of this, then I can use slide edge. Let me just highlight it first. So it's this guy. And then I can use slide edge. There we go. And then I can just like pull that. Oh, come on. Is that doing it? Should be doing it. Yeah. To the front, like that. Okay? Yeah. So bottom line is there's a bunch of tools you can use to get this piece of clay look like you want it to look. Okay? But I'm not sure we should spend the entire hour you watching me doing freeform modeling. It's way better if you do it yourself. So now I will finalize this, get all the nitty-gritty details on there, and then I will show you how to make a freeform model using surface. Or would you like to see surface modeling first in freeform? Maybe you'd like to see that first. Okay, how about we do this? We got 8 minutes now, so I will do surface model of the same thing, and then we take a break, and then I will get all the nitty-gritty details in and finalize in the next hour. Is that okay? Yeah? Okay. So that was clay. Yeah, not a complete failure. That's not horribly bad. So let's do the same thing, but let's do it in surface modeling. So if I want to surface model this thing, my strategy is going to be a bit different. Now I just made clay and I sort of shaped it into the complete thing. If I want to surface model it, I will start by a line that traces the outside of this, and then I will extrude that line to a surface model. Okay? So I might as well start here. I could go into the freeform environment and then create sketch, but that sort of does the same thing as just creating a sketch, so it doesn't really matter. But yeah, let's do this. So now I'm just going to do a fit point spline like this. Let me just hide all of this stuff. Let's see. Yeah, perfect. So I'm just going to make a spline, and I'm just going to pull that spline sort of around my water gun. Oh, that's ugly. Maybe we should do this and then that. When you do stuff in, that wasn't clever. When you do stuff in sketches in Fusion, if your sketch turns blue, that means it's a closed contour like this. So that's a closed contour, okay? And that's what you want in this case. I had some ugly corners. I'm not sure if I'm going to worry too much about those. This is not a constrained sketch at present. I can do a lot of things to constrain this sketch, but I'm not going to do that now because it's a lot of work constraining spline sketches. So yeah, I'm just going to do this, and then I'm just going to tweak it a bit to get something I want. Yeah, again, not horribly bad. Can probably be better, but yeah. Okay, finish. So now I have a sketch. My sketch is here, right? That's my sketch. And now I'm going to use that sketch as basis for a shell or a freeform model that's just based on surfaces. So what I will do is let's see, I think I'm going to use extrude. Let's try it. Yeah. So I'm going to select that profile, and I'm going to extrude it like this. Let's see. Perfect. Yeah. Oh. It did something funny. Yeah, so I had too few faces, right? I had a lot of nodes on this string, right? And Fusion thinks that I will try and do this in 8 phases, and that's going to give me some trouble in the back and some not really realistic geometry. So I need to increase the resolution of this thing before I do anything else. So I'm just going to add faces. Come on. Now we're getting there. So I think it would make sense if the number of faces is pretty close to the number of line segments. Oh yeah. Come on, bit more. Here we go. That's pretty close. Yeah. But I don't want like too many faces either, so let's just do 40, see what happens. Yeah. That outline was probably way too detailed. I'm just going to do 25 because that was a nice number. That outline was probably too detailed, but yeah, pretty close to what I want. Turn on the design envelope. I still got some more width, so I can do that. Perfect, yeah. Maybe I'll just base it off the handle, which is there, and then I do OK. Okay, so now I got just like the side, the shell, right? And that's not going to give me a closed model or anything. And also you can see I only took one side, so maybe in retrospect, maybe I should have taken symmetry on this. Let's just do that over because I told you guys symmetry. Yeah. Extrude this, symmetry like that, 25 faces like that, and then pull on it. Yes, perfect. That's better. Embed symmetry. I'm not sure what that does. Let's check it off. Yeah. Yeah. That's going to give me the same green line, and we want that one. Yeah. So that's my basis. And then I'm going to close this off. So I will use the face command, and I will select. Oh, this is going to be a pain. Because now I need to select all of these. I'm not sure if there is a faster way of doing it. I don't think there is. Well, that's. I didn't see that one coming. Yeah, so a few nodes is better always. Let's just see if we can get this to work. There might be a faster way of doing this. Oh, I just messed it up. I think I need the break to clean this up. Sorry. Yeah. Anyway, that's a closed form based off a shell model or a surface model. Okay. So that's the essence of it. But the one mistake I did here is that my extruded surface was way too detailed, so I got so many points that I had to manipulate. So it would be better to make it more crude model and then fewer points and then close it off. Okay. So now I have two bodies. One being, let's see, Freeform. Yeah, it didn't like that. Now I got some trouble with this. Oh, now I can show you the tools. If you go to Utilities and then Repair Body, and that's going to show you where my problems are. I can try out auto repair, maybe. No, I cannot. Yeah. So my problem here is probably that I got overlapping faces or something that doesn't add up in the mesh. And that's my fault because I did too high resolution. Okay? But I suggest we take a break to code if passed, and then I will finalize this, get the details in, and show you how to do that. Okay? Yep. Okay. So first of all, thanks to my incomplete freeforming skills, I did the wrong function when I tried to close this thing off. So what I did wrong was that I tried to close it off using face, which I could have done. But what I did wrong was that if I should do it that way, I should sort of segment this into several parts. So I should perhaps make one face for that part, and then one face for the middle, and one for the back. That would be one strategy. That would work. But if you just want to close things off real quick, you might as well use the fill hole function, which is a lot faster, because then you just select the perimeter of the hole, and it's just going to close it off for you. But the drawback of that is that it might give you some odd lines and faces like this. Not necessarily a problem, but it could be a problem. Okay. But then again, I can always add on. I can fix up this by adding lines and doing things. Like I can do Let's see, I can insert edges like and try and make this, let's see. Nope, I can insert points. Insert point like that, yeah. So if I were to like do that, it would give you a edge in between, and I can sort of, that just makes it look a lot better straight away, right? So I can modify my mesh to make it the way I want. Okay, so far we have two bodies. We have this one and we have this one. This one was made using a solid method, and this one is based using a surface modeling approach. Okay, but this is not a war gun yet. It's just like, it's a form, it's a dummy, but it doesn't spray water yet. So that's what we're going to do now. So this part of the lecture is not really a free-forming lecture. It's just about how to get stuff done in Fusion. Okay. So right now I got my hose adapter down here. I know this is correct. Like, I've tried this, so I know that the geometry is right. But I need to sort of attach that to this part, and I need to get like a hole in the center and make this thing spray water. So that's what we're going to talk about. So you can notice that this is just half the adapter, and that's because I like working with halves when you do symmetrical stuff. And now that we're done with the freeform modeling, I might as well split this in half as well, because there's no need for me to do like one solid thing and then try and do section views and do stuff inside, when I can just split it and just mirror it in the end. Trust me, it's faster. So the first thing I'll do is I will verify that I'm on the right level. You can see that my radio button is now at the top, and it shouldn't be that, because if I start doing stuff, let's say I start splitting this thing, split, reverb, yeah. So I'm going to split that, and I'm going to split it here. I'm now operating at the wrong, no, actually it went to the right place, but that's because I used the split command. If I were to do some other operation, let's say I'm going to make a rectangle like this, and I'm going to extrude it like that. Yeah. This turns orange because I'm at the top level, right? This is red, this is orange. I want to be working on the red part, not the orange part, okay? And since I got my component coloring on, it's quite easy to detect that. But without that, it would be impossible. You can also see down here that this turns orange. This tree should look like, it should not look like a patchwork of colors. You should work on one component and then the next and then the next. So try and have like continuous strips of the same color. It won't always happen that way, but it's easier. And also, if you work on one thing, if you work on this thing, make sure that your operations are also on that component. It's just going to make it a lot easier for you when you start doing stuff. So I'm going to delete this. Come on, delete, and delete that. And then I will activate this component. I can either right-click and select activate, or I can press this little radio button. Okay, super important. Make sure that you're working on the right component. If your Fusion is unstable, component coloring might have to do that. At some point, there was an update that made component coloring unstable. I'm not sure if it's, I think it's back to working now, but it was a problem for about a year. So yeah, the first thing I will do is I will work on a half, so I will split this thing. So I'm just going to do this. I'm going to split that body. I'm going to split it with this plane, like that. And now I will get two bodies. I got that part, and I got that part. Normally, you could do this and you could select remove. That's a bad idea. The reason it's a bad idea is that when you do a split, or when you have bodies that sort of, you have an operation that splits one body into two, Fusion tends to swap names of body 1 and body 2. So if you remove body 1 right away, when you update next time, and if you do something upstream, you might end up removing body 2 and vice versa. So that's just a flaw in Fusion. So don't remove bodies or do stuff just yet. So what I will do, I will just hide it, and I can remove it at the very end of my modeling. Okay? Don't do it right away. So the next thing I need to do is I need to get this hose adapter sort of connected to this shape, right? I know that I can add some length here, but I should definitely not reduce that length. So now I have two components, right? I got this component and I've got that component. And now this is just a matter of moving stuff, right? I'm a bit lucky here because this is fairly flat, but I'm going to show you an approach that's going to work regardless. So what I'll do is I will hit M on my keyboard, which is move. That's the same command as you got there. And then I will select components like that. And then I will select this. Just one surface of that. Make sure that you're still on the symmetry plane. This is actually, I think maybe it was shifted over, so I will fix that first. So to move stuff, you can align components like this. So I can align it by pressing that surface and that surface. Oh, sorry. Let's do that again. That surface and that surface. And select align. That moves it to the symmetry plane. Okay, so now this is on the symmetry plane. I know that. This is on the symmetry plane. And now I got this little thing in the corner, right? This says capture position, like that. Now it just saved that position for me, right? So if I go back, it's going to be in the other place. Now I just capture it. Now I'm just holding it there, right? If I'm super lucky, I can do the same approach again. So I can take this flat surface, and I can take that, and I can align them. Nope, that didn't work. Because I think maybe it's because this is not entirely flat. I'm not sure. Usually, if they both were flat, this would work. I'm not sure exactly why it does that. Okay, it doesn't work, doesn't matter. So now I will just move it in place instead. So I'm going to use move. I'm going to select components. I'm going to select that component. Just pick one surface, and then I'm just going to sort of nudge it into place where I want it, okay? Yeah, so that's pretty close. This is actually a bit easy because that surface is flat. It's not necessarily the case for you guys. So I'm just going to do this, leave a bit of space, try and center it like that. And then I will imagine this thing not being flat. So you got something that's more universal. The first thing I'll do now is I will extend that onto here, right? Right now I'm still in this component, but since I moved something else, yeah. Anyway, I'm on the right component. So I'll start doing an extrude. Oh, capture. Yeah. And I will select that surface, and I will extrude it up to this body. Nice. And now since I've highlighted, I'm still in procrastinator, remember? So this turned red. This is not part of procrastinator, right? So I just took the profile from that component and I used that to extrude onto the procrastinator, okay? So now I have a bit of a problem. I got two volumes and I want these volumes to be the same, right? I want this part to be part of that part, but they're different components, so that's not really possible, right? So I need to find a fix for that. But luckily, our friends at Autodesk have thought of that. So now I'm going to show you a little trick. This is super useful little trick. So still being in the procrastinator component, I'm going to select a function that's called boundary fill. This, okay? And then I will select my host adapter. So that's the boundary. I just selected a solid, and the boundary is like sort of the outside of that solid. And then I'm going to select the cells. That's whatever is inside of that solid. Take off that. And then I can select to join, or I can select a new body. I'm just going to do new body now for the sake of doing it, but you might as well select join. It's just going to connect to the rest. So I did this. Now you can see I get this pinkish thing in between or underneath. So that means I got a nice little I got a new body here, right? So now I got that's the side of the procrastinator, and that's my host adapter imported into Fusion. Okay, pretty good. So the next thing I do now is just to merge those two. Yeah?
What's wrong with keeping it as a different body?
When you start printing, you want to have one body in your print, because it's the same material, so it sort of makes sense that it's the same body also. It's the same piece of plastic. If this was a case of like if you were to like screw on that host adapter, it would be perfectly well being two bodies and two components. But since it's like the one piece, same piece, I want it to be the same body. You can also use that. This is an extremely nice tool. You can use that for a bunch of things. You can also use that on faces. So you can sort of just select a bunch of faces, and then it will just fill the stuff that's in the middle with water, essentially. That's what it's doing. Super useful little tool. So now I'm just going to combine them. That's my target body, that's my tool body, and now I got this thing. That's pretty close, right? So now I got half a handle with a hose adapter. And I know this hose adapter works because that's just a copy of a different model, okay? So now I need my water channel in the middle, right? So what I'll do is I'm going to use a tool called pipe. That's down here. But before I can use pipe, I need to have sort of a sketch saying where that pipe is going to go, okay? So now I'm just going to make a sketch. You can always make a sketch by doing create sketch and then selecting a surface. That's always valid, but it's not super fast. If you want to be faster, you can just use any operation that's within the sketch, like R is rectangle, C is circle, L is line. So typically when I create a sketch, if I know there's going to be a line in that sketch, I'm just going to hit L, and then Fusion is going to ask me, okay, where do you want that line? And then I can just select the face where I want it. Everyone see that? Okay, so instead of making a sketch and then start drawing lines or circles or rectangles in it, just tell Fusion that you want to draw a line or a rectangle or a circle, and then it will say, okay, I understand that requires a sketch. Now where do you want to sketch? Okay, so I very often just start my sketch using L for line, and then I will say, okay, I'm going to have my line here. So now I need to center my water channel on this. This is, let's see, does it work? Yeah, it does. A nice little triangle. That means that's the center, right? If it hadn't worked that way, I could always use project, and then I could sort of select that edge, and that would show us as a pink line. That's another way of sort of getting those lines. So I want it to start here, and I think it's a good idea to come down perpendicular to that. So now that little squarish thing you can see there on the bottom of my screen, that means it's perpendicular, that. And then I want my channel to very nicely curve. So I'm going to hold my mouse button and then pull to the side. That's going to give me a little curve. So I want it to very nicely curve, perhaps a bit to the center, maybe even up here. Let's do that again. So this nice little curve, then going straight, nice little curve, then going straight, and then out here somewhere. Okay? And then I'm just going to constrain this. So I'm just going to, let's see, that's tangent. That's a 10. Maybe it's more than a 10. Maybe it's 30. Okay, so now I got my water channel, right? This is not fully constrained. You can see the lines are blue. Typically, when you do stuff, you want fully constrained lines. And then I need some sort of exit point out here, right? This is probably not horribly bad. Maybe a bit down, I don't know. And maybe it makes sense to have this horizontal, otherwise my spray gun is going to spray down to the floor. So I'm just going to tell it to do this horizontal. Okay? So far, so good. So now I got this line here, and now I'm going to use my pipe tool. I know that this is probably 8 millimeters, 4.5. That's 9 millimeters. Okay, so that means if I use a pipe that's 8 millimeters, that's going to be pretty close. So I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do. I'm going to do one more thing. I need to make sure that I go through the wall here, so I need to make sure that this extends a bit. Just going to add a little extension here of like 10 millimeters. Perfect. So pipe. Here's my pipe. My diameter is 8, so that means 4. No, that actually means 8. Let's see how that works. Yeah, that's pretty close, right? And now I just use cut. That's the default. So I'm just going to cut it like that. Okay. So far, so good. I'm going to do one last thing. Of course, I want to have a little nozzle at the end. Otherwise, I'm going to get like very low pressure coming out here, and I won't have a lot of it's not going to look impressive. It's just going to be like a faucet. It's going to come down to the floor. So I'm just going to add a little detail to make that exit a bit narrower. So once again, I'll make a new sketch. Maybe we should turn on the previous one. Yeah, just to have it. And then I'll make a new sketch on the same surface, and then I'm going to use, nope, I'm not going to do that. Now I sketched on the previous sketch, I don't want to do that, I want to sketch here. Now we can turn it on, like that, yeah. New sketch, and I'm going to do, this is what I did for my print, and it worked pretty well. So you can might as well do for yours. Come on. There we go. So that pipe is 8 across, so maybe the end should be like 2 is probably quite a big nozzle. And just give it some length, 12 or something, and then some angle here. I don't think this matters a whole lot. Yeah, and then I'm just going to revolve that. Again, I'm doing 180 degrees. I don't want to work across the symmetry line, so I'm just going to do 180, minus 180, like that, and then join, right? And then this looks a bit ugly, so to clean up that, I'm just going to select these 2 faces and delete face. Now it looks nice. I'm going to do that again because that's a very useful trick. Very often you will have, when you do operations or drawings, you will get those tiny little faces like this. And it's a pain to sort of get rid of this in any civilized way. I could try and extrude up to here or something. But if you just select the faces that you have, like sort of the small faces, and you hit delete, that deletes the faces and patches it with the surrounding faces. Very nice little trick. Okay, so now I got my hose adapter, and I have this, and I have everything else. So maybe I will add a fillet, like down here. F is fillet. Okay, that looks pretty neat. So now we're at the very end, and this is a good time to mirror and do everything else. So now I'm just going to mirror this. Let's see, mirror. I'm going to mirror that. I'm going to mirror it against this, and select join. And that's my water gun. Cool? Yeah. If I wanted to add texture, I can show that as well. Let's say I wanted to add some text on this. I wanted to say procrastinator or something. So what I'll do is I need a, do you want to see that, by the way, or do you want to see how I prepared prints? What do you want? More detail or prints on the last 20 minutes? More details. Okay, cool. Yeah. So I asked you guys to do some patterns. And that gives you an opportunity to play with another cool little tool. I'm not sure if I'm signed into the right place. Let's see. Because there are, in Fusion you will have extensions, these kind of things. And there is a design, oh look, there is a design extension, which you get a 30-day trial of, and this might be a good time to activate that 30-day trial. In the design extension, you also get an advanced pattern package. So, again, this is quite new to me, so I'm not totally sure what I'm doing here, but bear with me. So I have the plastic extension, which you also can have. And then there should be a pattern here. I'm not sure where it is, but I'm dead certain there is there somewhere.
It's there.
Is under create? Is there a pattern?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Yes, yes, perfect. Yeah. So this is quite cool. So let's see if we can get some patterns on it. I'm not very familiar with this. Let's get some dots on it. Yeah. That's a lot of dots. Oh, and I did it wrong. That's really ugly. I can do cut. It's still really ugly. That's horribly bad. Let's not go there. But yeah, play with patterns by all means. Get the plugin, try and play with patterns. Don't do this because that looked absolutely horrible. I think there's a better way of doing it. I'm going to try that. So I'm going to offset this like that. I need to make sure that I'm across. Yeah, let's say 40. And then I'm going to project on this, project that surface. And then maybe I'll say that I'll just do one area that's patterned. Maybe that looks better. Maybe I can even try and write something. Again, I'm on thin ice now, so please bear with me. I don't know. This is not very designer. Please don't show this to my colleagues. They're going to laugh at me. Yeah. Yeah. That's horrible. Anyway, then I'll do this, and then I can emboss that text. Let's see. Emboss, emboss, emboss. Where is it? Here we go. Yeah. Yeah, like a designer. Look at that. Yeah. So that's what I did here is emboss. I don't do that very often, but it's there. That's a way of getting like wrapping text on the surface. Another thing you could do if you want one area with a pattern and you want to play with this geometric pattern thing, you can try and split this face into multiple areas. Maybe I should do that for the handle. Let's say that the handle should have like a grip pattern. That would kind of make sense. So I will do the same strategy again. I will make my sketch that's a bit offset, and I will just project that down to the thing itself. So I could just go on with that, but I'm just going to make a new sketch. So construction, that's where my plane goes, and then I'm going to do this, and then I'll select my handle. Oh, entire surface, please. That one and this one. And then now maybe I will have like my dotted pattern should be like within this area. Let's say that's this is my dotted pattern area. Like that. Okay. Perfect. Now I can try and split that face using that edge. That's also not something I do every day, so please bear with me. Split face. So I'm going to split this using this. Perfect. And now I can use that for my pattern. That would perhaps look better than the stuff I did previously. So I'm going to use my, where is it? Yeah. I'm going to use my geometric pattern just here with my little dots. They should be a lot smaller. Let's say maybe from 1 to 4. And then maybe we should have some more of them. That's not really nice either, but it's perhaps a bit better. That's, well, I'm not going to win any design awards. These go out, so let's just kill those. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to leave it with that. I'm happy, so I hope you guys are happy. I'm not sure. Yeah. Okay, so at least I got some text on it, I got some patterns on it, I got some stuff on it, right? Yeah, that's really what I wanted to show you guys. So yeah, that's also what I want you guys to do for the assignment. So this is now in the class folder. So if you go here, that's my assignment 1 example. Please copy this and use that to build your own things. It's perfectly well okay to look at other people's assignment. I want you guys to do that, right? Don't copy other people's stuff and put your name on it. I'm going to see that. But please look at how other people are doing it as well. That's sort of the point of having this class folder. Okay? Yeah. So I'm going to be here for another hour, I think. So I guess this might be a good time to just start tinkering, start doing stuff. And if you got any questions, just let me know. Okay? Yeah.
So the connection